Well, destiny awaits.
The trailer for the new Borderlands movie came out the other day, and, it didn't go too well. Many have complained about the movie's weird casting choices, with most of the cast being double the age of the characters they're playing. Like many video game adaptations, the Borderlands movie trailer seems to hint that the movie is going to deviate quite heavily from the source material. Add this negative PR from the trailer to a last-minute change of directors and a 9-year hellish development cycle, and we're left with a movie that seems destined to fail. So let's look at the main reasons why the movie adaptation of the much-loved Borderlands games is turning out to be a disaster.
Ew!
Put the window up.
I don't want to! Roll the window up!
Firstly, the casting seems to be very, weird, with Lionsgate deciding to cast actors that in some cases are more than double the age of the original characters from the games. The lead character Lilith is being played by Cate Blanchett, who will be 55 years old when the movie is released. I, nor anyone else criticising this casting, is saying that Blanchett looks old, but considering that Lilith is 22 years old in the original Borderlands and 27 in Borderlands 2, it does make you wonder why she has been cast as Lilith. This theme of casting much older actors than the age of their video game counterparts also applies to Roland and Tannis. Roland is in his 30s in the game, and Kevin Hart will be 45 years old upon the movie's release. He looks good for his age, so I think most will give a pass to the age difference. However, many have pointed out that Roland's personality, certainly in Borderlands 2, is that of a stoic, almost emotionless soldier.
Vault Hunter. Good to finally meet you in person. Hell of a job fighting through those bloodshots.
And if we're typecasting Kevin Hart, he most definitely doesn't fit with a stoic, emotionless soldier.
I'm swaddling you.
I know what you're doing.
I'm swaddling you.
I know what you...
Perhaps the most interesting casting is Jamie Lee Curtis, who is playing Tannis. Tannis is around 15 years older than Lilith in the games, so about 35 to 40 years old. Jamie Lee Curtis is 65, so quite a gap in age there. In an interview, Curtis said this about movie Tannis. She is the character that knew Cate Blanchett's character's mother, which is why I'm in the movie. I'm a connection back to Cate's early past. So this means that Tannis will be playing more of a motherly figure to the group. To round off the rest of the main cast, Ariana Greenblatt is playing Tiny Tina, who is a teenager in the games, and Greenblatt is 16 years old, so no concerns about the age gap there. And Krieg, played by Florian Montano, seems like the best casting of the lot, as he at least looks the part. Claptrap is voiced by Jack Black, which again seems like an odd choice, considering that the point of Claptrap is to have such an irritating voice. And Jack Black, well, his voice is just not that annoying to be voicing Claptrap.
Steve! Do something with this guy, please!
David Eddings was the voice actor for Claptrap for most of the games, until he was replaced by Jim Foronda for Borderlands 3. It's a shame that neither voice actors will be voicing Claptrap for the film, which would have made sense, as it's not like they need to wear claptrappy makeup and wheel around as a little robot. They just need to do the voice, which is what they've been doing for many years in the games. More than anything, movie Claptrap being voiced by Jack Black fits in with Lionsgate's choice of hiring big-name actors instead of those who may actually fit the characters better, which from the studio point of view, they believe the big-name actors will help to attract general audiences to the movie. Almost every video game adaptation struggles to bring its characters across to the big screen. Uncharted, for example, received a lot of criticism for the casting of Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg as Nathan Drake and Sully. But Borderlands, due to the blatantly vast gap in age between the cast and the original characters, seems to have gone further than is reasonable in its character variations from the games. It's just too obvious not to summarise that the cast look way too old and are too different from the original characters.
We have something they don't, baby girl.
Okay, what?
Major issues.
Development for a Borderlands movie began 9 years ago, in 2015, when Lionsgate began discussions with Gearbox about adapting the shooting and looting video game. Over the next 3 years, various production houses and scriptwriters had their stab at the adaptation, but to no avail. From 2015 to 2019, apart from the movie's announcement and numerous script rewrites, no tangible progress seemed to happen, and the film was stuck in Hollywood script limbo land. And then in early 2020, Eli Roth, known for Cabin Fever and The House with a Clock in Its Walls, was attached to direct the film. And shortly after, the cast were named, and a year after that, filming began. Shooting started in April 2021 and ended in June the same year, and this was when the first image of the film was released. Post-production took place, and a draft movie was sent to the higher-ups at Lionsgate Studio, and reportedly, they hated it. This then led to an almost complete overhaul of the original creative team. In 2023, it was announced that Tim Miller would be directing reshoots, as Eli Roth was unavailable, as he was working on another film at the time. This is somewhat reminiscent of 2017's Justice League, where Joss Whedon directed weeks of reshoots, changing most of the original director Zack Snyder's vision for the movie. Somehow, I don't think Borderlands Release the Eli Roth Cut will get quite as much traction as #Release the Snyder Cut. Regardless, it was not only the director that was changed in 2023. Craig Mazin, the original scriptwriter, was replaced by Joe Crombie, which may or may not be a pseudonym used by Craig Mazin himself. Which on one hand, if Joe Crombie is a different writer than Craig Mazin, then he's, and I'm presuming Joe is a he, has literally come from nowhere, as Joe Crombie has absolutely no writing credits to his name other than Borderlands. On the other, perhaps more worrying hand, is that Craig Mazin has such little faith in the movie that he would rather use a pseudonym than have a writing credit for Borderlands attached to his name. Also, composer Nathan Barr was replaced by Steve Jablonsky in 2023. Now, it's not that uncommon for reshoots to take place, especially for superhero movies and video game adaptations. However, the sheer scale of these changes does warrant serious concern. It's very hard to have faith in a movie's quality when the bosses at Lionsgate thought the initial film was so bad that they had to spend millions and fire and replace many of the key creative team behind the film. The saying, "You can polish a Morbius, but at the end of the day, it's still a Morbius," springs to mind.
Time to make it rain with your body parts.
Another bad omen for the movie is that the first trailer, which was released last week, has a pretty spicy comment section. The quantity and unanimity of negative comments shows that Borderlands the movie has a lot of PR work to do if it's to succeed and make a profit. One comment said, "Are you sure this isn't Tsunami? Welcome to the Borderlands." Another comment said, "Casting agent, how many characters should I miscast for this movie? Director, yes. Hey Guardians of the Galaxy, we copied your homework, but used crayon and old people." And finally, so what did you think of the game and its story? Director, it's a game? Remember when the first Sonic trailer was released and everyone pointed out that Sonic's design was awful? But the studio listened and redesigned Sonic in time for the film's release. Borderlands, however, unfortunately, cannot change its entire cast after the movie has been shot and reshot. The trailer has annoyed fans of the Borderlands games in what looks like an attempt to make the movie more accessible to general audiences. By casting actors not just for their similarities to the original characters, but casting actors based on name recognition alone. Borderlands players could have been real ambassadors for the film, but now they will probably be the movie's harshest critics, adding more fuel to the negativity fire surrounding the movie. As unpopular as it might be, I do have some sympathy with the studio, as the vast majority of those who will see the film will be the general audience, who know very little to nothing about the video games. So they do have to mainstreamize to some extent by hiring big name actors. Perhaps in the future, film studios will debate whether to spend a reported $110 million on an IP with little to no name recognition outside of those who are hardcore gamers. Or if they do choose to adapt a game, they will actually adapt the game, and not pick and choose based on its potential widespread appeal.
Do you know how many people have died looking for this vault?
And finally, another factor going against Borderlands is its production budget, which as mentioned sits at around 110 million. Now normally the simple sum to find a movie's break-even point is to double the production budget to take account for marketing and distribution, which includes the cut of the ticket that the cinema gets. So Borderlands needs to make 220 million to break even, and reach a $300 mark to start turning a decent profit. Leaving a messy production and negative PR aside, Borderlands has to deal with a pretty tricky theatrical run, as it comes out 2 weeks after Deadpool and Wolverine, which is nailed on to be the highest grossing movie this year. Deadpool will most certainly eat into the Borderlands box office potential, as many will watch Deadpool and Wolverine instead of Borderlands. Now if I'm putting my optimistic hat on, there are a few reasons why Borderlands may not be a total failure. The first reason is that the next quote unquote big movie to come out after Borderlands is Kraven the Hunter, coming out at the end of August. Also, despite not seeming like good fits for the characters, the cast is star-studded. Cate Blanchett and Jamie Lee Curtis are fantastic actresses, and Kevin Hart does have that widespread appeal. It's also nice to see a more stylised and quirky game get a movie adaptation. And if the Borderlands game's eccentricity is brought to the big screen, then it could be a really fun and alternative film. I wanted to end on a positive note, and that's about all the positives I can find for the upcoming Borderlands movie. And now I'd like to know, are you excited for the film? Did you play the Borderlands games? And do you think that the movie can do anything other than fail at the box office? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing to the channel. I release videos every week covering the best films and shows around, as well as box office numbers and preview videos like this one. If you really like this video, then consider becoming a member and joining Film Club. Thank you for watching, and see you again.